This summer I went camping in the Netherlands. During the holiday I made several astrophotography trips to go nightscaping, so hopefully this is the first video in a small series. So stay tuned to see the rest of the videos. This first trip is around the campsite in Borger in the north of Holland. That proved to be a nice dark location. Even from the campsite itself I could easily see the Milky Way across the sky, as long as I stayed away from the sanitary facilities, that is. My goal was to shoot the Milky Way. I wanted to image as much of the core as possible, so I needed to find a spot with a low horizon facing south. Just a few minutes walking distance from the campsite, a small moor field provided just that. I am Martin Schoenmaker, and I call myself Koplamp on this channel. I'm fairly new to nightscaping myself, as I usually shoot through a telescope from my garden, so you will get to join me in a nighttime expedition to shoot data, and I will show a bit of the processing I did, and I will share, of course, the final image at the end of this video. I only brought simple equipment, a very basic tripod, a Canon 80D which has not been modified for astrophotography, and a remote shutter cable. As lens I used the Samyang 14mm f2.8. The target for tonight is the Milky Way, so the only requirements were a free view of the southern horizon and as little light pollution as possible. When shooting the Milky Way, there are a few things to consider. One is the orientation of the camera. Do we want more of the horizon in view, or do we want more of the sky? I chose to go for a vertical orientation in order to have more of the Milky Way in my picture. Focusing I did by just judging it on the live view. The smaller the stars, the better the focus. Then you need to pick a correct ISO and exposure time. I chose to shoot at ISO 6400 and expose for 15 seconds. With the lens I am using, I would then be at a maximum exposure length before stars will start to become streaks due to the rotation of the Earth. Having a remote shutter cable helps, as it will take the images without moving the camera. If you don't have a remote shutter cable, you best can use the self-timer option, or, if your camera supports it, operate the camera using your phone. The 80D, for instance, supports control over Wi-Fi. You best can shoot as many sub-exposures as you can. Best is also to shoot darks, but as I skipped shooting them, I will not cover that in this video. The end result will be a lot of images on your SD card. And by the way, while the camera is shooting, don't forget to look at the sky. You might miss something, as I did. Next up is processing. Processing I did using Sequator. That's a free piece of software that runs on Windows, and the software is fairly straightforward to use. Let me show you. My steps were dragging and dropping the files onto the main window of Sequator and adding them as star images. Then you need to tell the software what the output file name will be, and then you can pick things like, for instance, the composition. I wanted a composition with the foreground horizon sharp as well as the stars. Then you need to select freeze ground. That will also require you to mark the sky by painting with your left mouse button. The brush can be resized using your mouse wheel, and mistakes can be corrected with the right mouse button. You don't need to be overly accurate as long as the foreground is not painted on. I then set auto brightness to on. I enable high dynamic range, which apparently will help in post-processing. Then I set remote dynamic noises to on. I make sure that the distortion effects reduction is set to the complex model, as I am using a wide field lens. The reduce light pollution option can be set to uneven, and I found that setting the strength slider to weak has the best results for me. Then I enable Enhance Starlight, and then I can set the processing in motion. Several minutes later you then have an image that can be edited further in tools like Photoshop. Photoshop allowed me to make some careful adjustments in the levels, the curve adjustments, and I did some other fancy editing to tease out as much detail as I can. And then this is the end result. Please stick around, as in the coming weeks I'll share more videos of this holiday. I shot the Milky Way over the oldest monuments we have in the Netherlands, and I also tried shooting nightscapes from Holland's biggest moorfield in the south of Holland, where it wasn't the animals scaring me away from the location. And if you immediately want to see another video on nightscaping, perhaps this video about nightscaping with just a mobile phone might be of your interest. Till next video, and thanks for watching.